In 2021, Gerald Haslam, an award-winning regional writer from California, passed away. Before he died, he made a few recordings of his stories available through the California Revealed archive, for free use. This is his 1989 story, Tarzan's House, read by the writer himself.
You younger folks here don't remember when there was a great green belt forest between Oildale and Bakersfield and hang vined like a jungle. Hard to imagine, but there's some of the here who do remember that. This is a story called Tarzan's House. Maybe it wasn't a real desert, the kind with sand dunes and Arabs and camels, but it was brown and dry, almost toasted, and there weren't any trees at all except in people's yards. That's why even the idea of a jungle around here seems so strange. But Gary, my older brother, he told me about this place called Tarzan's House. He said it was a real jungle, all green and tangled, and that he went there sometimes with other big kids. I thought he was teasing me. That day, though, Gary loaded me onto his bicycle's handlebar and pedaled out Chester Avenue past Standard School to Decatur Street, then over the canal bridge and onto a dirt track that skirted an oil refinery. We pedaled past horse pastures and finally some scrawny trees where a few cattle tried to find shade. There were lots of ground squirrels there, too, scrambling in every direction ahead of us, like little beige darts. It seemed like a long, long way, bouncing on that hard handlebar. But Gary still didn't stop. He kept pedaling as they waved in the last corrals toward where a dark line of the Kern River swung underneath big scorched bluffs. They looked scary, and my brother told me that there were caves up on those waterless slopes where robbers and bats lived. Once, a long time ago, when my daddy was still living with us, he drove me up there, and I walked with him through dry tumbleweeds and short, crisp weeds that looked like burr haircuts. I saw where the river wound around below like a giant snake, and I remember that when we were up there, he asked me that funny question. Listen, Marlies, does a man come visit Mommy when I'm at work? A man? When I'm at work? No, Daddy. Okay, he said. There was a big green strip of trees all along the river underneath us, but beyond it, the round hills where my daddy worked didn't have any green at all, just lots of oil derricks sticking up and a few shiny tanks. The day was real hot, and everything over there seemed like it was swerving, like water was running in front of her. Why are those hills all wet? I asked. Heat wave, Daddy grunted. Heat wave? At me? It don't wave at you, honey. It don't wave at no one. It just, waves is all. Oh, I said. Off to one side, a heavy cloud of black smoke was swirling up real slow like an octopus ink I saw one time in a mooder. What's that, Daddy? I asked. What's what? Oh, they're burning an oil sump, honey, my daddy explained. You sure no man comes to visit her? Yes, I said, uncertain what an oil sump was. Not too far from where that smoke was rising, I saw red brick buildings of Standard School. That's where I go, I told him. Good, he replied. You study hard. Then we drove home. Before that year, we'd lived in a trailer house and moved all the time so my daddy could find work. But by then, we'd been in Oildale the longest of all, and not in the trailer house. I had a real house, just like other kids did, in my own school where I knew the other kids' names and they knew mine. But I didn't have my daddy anymore. He and the trailer were gone. Anyway, those big brown bluffs loomed ahead of us as Gary pedaled over the dusty trail. And close in front I could see bushes and trees, real big ones, tall and green, not like the stubby sticks in town. The closer we got, the darker that forest looked until we slipped into it and the temperature dove. Gary, it's really real, I gasped. Just wait, he said. He kept pumping, the bounced farther into the woods, cooler and denser, like green walls on both sides of us, with vines dangling from the tall towers, with birds splitting all around and little side paths that looked like tunnels in the bushes. Finally, we reached this big clearing where the sun lit everything up, grass and wildflowers, and even a sheet of flat water that's been removed. It was a little side channel of the river, Gary said. There were big giant trees all around with long green vines hanging down. I couldn't even see the main river at all from there. This is Tarzan's house, my brother said, and I really could imagine a crocodile sliding into that water. It's neato, I told him. Just then leaves rattled behind us and I jumped. Turning, I saw a large brown man lunge out of the wood, then another one followed him. They looked like the dark people in Tarzan movie. My eyes fled to Gary's. Hi, called my brother, and both men smiled. Each carried a stool, a bag, and a long bamboo pole. How you childrens today? Said the one that had white hair. The men put down their stools and bags, then stood for a moment holding their long skinny pole. I stared at them because I'd never seen people like them before, not in real life anyway. You be careful, sugar, the white-haired man said to me. That water dangerous. Don't you be falling in her. I'll watch her, Gary said. I'm going to leave my bike and show my little sister some secret trail. You childrens go ahead, the man smiled. We'll watch your bike. As soon as he led me into a leafy tunnel, I asked my brother, why are those minks so brown? Are they natives? Gary hesitated, then said, I don't know. He shook his head. Anyway, he said, they come here to fish. I've seen them before. Like natives? Just like them, he grinned. You asked some dumb stuff. Are they nice? He stopped. Sure. Everything's nice at Tarzan's house. Come on. My brother led me through green passage after green passage. At one place we stepped onto a soft bank, and the Kern River's main channel hissed past. I was scared and grabbed his hand because Mama had told me all about children who drowned in it. The brown man says there's real quicksand in there, but it's okay, Gary added. I won't let you fall in. Then he led me back to the safety of the jungle. When we said goodbye to the fishermen and left the cover of those trees on our way home, everything seemed hotter than I could ever remember. And those swerving hills with their oil derricks looked like the worst desert in the whole world. We left the last bushes, and pretty soon scrambling ground squirrel gave way to lizards. The only trees left were snags where cows clustered. Jolting home, I wondered if what we'd seen had been real at all. Just as we rode up to the house that day, Mr. Carlton, the man who'd begun to call on Mama, was driving away, and she stood there waving at him in her blue and white waitress dress, looking real pretty. I was so proud of her net uniform, and I wanted one for myself when I grew up. Hi, Mama, I called. Where've you two been? Gary took me to Tarzan's house. He took you where? I showed her the woods, Mama. Not to the river, I hope. I just showed her the woods, Mama. That next day, my daddy visited. He drove up in the old car we'd always had, but when he got out, he had on a brand new Hawaiian shirt and a pair of those neato sunglasses like pilots wear, the clean jeans and brand new boots. He looked like a movie star. Mama waited on the porch with Gary and me in front of her, and Daddy, he kind of leaned on that car for a minute like he was posing, a cigarette hanging from his mouth. Then he said, Hello, Marie. Hello, Frank. Hello, kids. No kiss for your old dad? Give your father a kiss, urged Mama. So I walked to the car and gave him one. He smelled like the aftershave my brother had given him for Christmas. Gary, who was 12, waited till I was finished, and he thrust his hand forward. Well, aren't you the little man now? My daddy grinned, and he shook Gary's hand. Then my father turned to Mama, and he stopped smiling. I'd like to talk to you, Marie, privately, before I take the kids for a ride. Can I come on in? We can talk on the porch. You take Marlise around the back, please. My brother escorted me to the clothesline behind the house, found an old tennis ball, and began underhanding it to me. It was fun, especially when it bounced off a rock and I had to chase it. Then we began to hear their voices, Mama's and my daddy's, louder and louder, just like we had before my daddy moved away. I won't have that Carlton guy. None of your business. I pay for it, another guy gets it. Foul mouth. No respectable parent. No decent husband. My lawyer will no judge will grab. You always were a... Then my daddy, his face purple, was around the house, grabbing my arm and Gary, pulling us toward the car. Mama was behind him, warning, You get them home on time today, Frank, or I'm going to report you. Come on. He jerked us to the car and stopped before he opened the door. "Where's my glasses?" he demanded. Then he let us go and searched the porch. Then he returned. "Why do you pick up my glasses?" "No, sir," Gary replied. I shook my head. "You sure? I just had 'em. What are you grinning about?" he asked Gary. "I'm not." "Yes, you are. I see your stupid face and you're grinning. You hooked him, didn't you?" He stood directly in front of my brother. "No." Gary backed up a step. "Yes, you did. What are you going to do? Give him to Mama's boyfriend? Give him to Mr. Carlton? You like him better too?" "No, My brother didn't finish because my daddy smacked him hard on the face and knocked him to the dirt. I got scared, ran toward Mama, turning once and seeing my daddy pick Gary up and then hit him again, bloody his mouth. "Bawl, you little son of a bitch," my dad was demanding. "You're not the man of this house yet. Bawl, damn it." And he hit him again. "Bawl." Then he hit him and Gary wouldn't cry. "I call the sheriff, Frank," Mama shouted as she rushed out of the house and scooped me up and hurried toward her son. My daddy stared for a second, looked at his own hands, then climbed into the car and roared away. Gary sat bloody but dry-eyed on the ground that was our small yard. Neighbors were already gathered. "The poor boy. What happened?" When the doctor finished and the deputy sheriffs were through talking to him, Gary was put to bed, and Mama stayed home from work. I heard her on the telephone talking to Grandma. So I went to our room and found Gary dressing. "What are you doing?" I asked. He cocked funny like he had cotton in his mouth when he said, "I'm going to go to Tarzan's house." "What for?" "I'm going to stay there. I'm going to live there from now on." "But why?" I felt my face warm suddenly. I didn't want my brother to go away. He just shook his head. "Can I come with you?" "No one can." I couldn't keep from crying. "But why?" I sobbed. "Marlise, He looked at me with swollen eyes and gave in. "Okay, come on, but hurry before Mama's off the phone." We slipped out the back and climbed on my brother's bicycle and retraced the route we'd taken the day before. When we reached the place where the cattle lounged under those bare snags, Gary stopped and looked back, but he kept pumping hard. Then he began pumping hard toward the jungle. The track curved into bushes and squirrels flashed away in front of us. All but one. Ahead, we both noticed a small squirrel unmoving as we approached. When we were right next to it, the little head turned and it made a scared sound. Cheep, 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 cheep. But only its front stirred. The rear legs were spread flat in opposite directions and motionless. Gary stopped the bike and jumped off. The squirrel cried again and pulled frantically with its front legs, dragging its hind end in a circle. "It's just a baby," I said. "Yeah." Gary's voice sounded sad. "What's wrong with it?" "I don't know, but it's hurt." I tried to reach down and pet it, but it cried and tried to struggle to escape and stop, and suddenly its eyes half closed and it seems to just lie there panting. "It's hurt real bad, I think," my brother said. Then he didn't say anything for a long time. He just stood there looking at it. "Can't we help it?" I asked. "Can't we take it to the doctor?" My brother didn't reply. He just kept watching that little squirrel panting with his eyes almost closed. "Gary?" "It's going to die, Marley." No, it's not," I countered. "No, it's not." I didn't want it to. "It's going to die and it's hurting real bad right now," he said. "No, Gary," I pleaded. "It's not going to die." "We've got to help it." His eyes had not left the little animal. "We could go home and get it some medicine," I urged. "Mama's got some." "Look over there." He pointed toward the steam plume rising from the Golden Bear oil refinery. And when my eyes followed the line of his finger, he moved his leg fast and I heard a light thump. A little squirrel was spinning down the trail when I looked back. It stopped upside down and its legs were jerking. My brother ran up to it and kicked its head again, sending it bouncing into the bushes. "Gary, no," I cried. "Gary, don't. You'll hurt it. No, no." He was ahead of me, running to where the squirrel landed. He stopped there, but did not kick again. When I arrived, the little animal was not moving, and its head was bloody in this shape. I began to weep and turned toward my brother and tried to hit him and hurt him, to punish him. "No, Gary," I gasped. No, Gary." But he didn't seem to hear me. Instead, he stood above the dead squirrel, and his shoulders began to surge. His face suddenly slicked with tears, and his head fell to his chest as though it had lost connection with his body. He started sobbing, and that really scared him, so I touched his arm. "Gary." After a while, he looked up, his face all red and wet, and he gazed for a minute ahead toward Tarzan's house. Then he turned from it, walked back to his bike, "Let's go home," was said.
You have just heard the writer Gerald Haslam reading his 1989 story, Tarzan's House, in a free recording from the California Revealed Archive. This is historyradio.org, a free radio stream promoting knowledge of literature and history.